What's going on, everybody? Richie here, Hybrid Athletics. Today I'm going to give you my top 3 tips for push-ups that I wish I knew earlier. Would have saved me a couple of years of trial and error. Could have got to the gains a whole lot quicker. But I've already done it. Now I'm going to break it down for you so you don't have to, alright? So let's get into it. Tip number 1. The hands go on the ground first, so let's cover the hands. I see a lot of people doing push-ups and their elbows are coming out here. This is not correct. This is going to give you elbow problems. This is going to give you shoulder problems. What I want you to do is I want you to keep the elbows in close. And the way we're going to do that, the cue that I want you to take is I want you to take your hands and I want you to screw them into the ground. Screw your hands into the ground. What this is going to do is it's going to bring in everything real tight. And it's going to cause you to have your elbows almost rub up against your lats along the movement. This is the correct push-up form. That's going to engage our lats. It's going to have our whole shoulder girdle tight. That way we're not leaking any horsepower throughout the movement. And it's going to make all your pushing movements that much more effective. Tip number 2. You can't be doing push-ups with that slack in your back. You know what I'm saying? So get the slack out your back. Tip number 2, get the slack out your back. So it's good to have, some sort of curve to the spine, a neutral spine. But if you got your whole waist dipping on the ground and your chest and your head up, you're completely eliminating a huge part of the range of motion. That range of motion is what's going to make the move effective. So you're really robbing yourself when you do that. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to take your pelvis and, so if this is a neutral spine and this is an anterior tilt, which means that the top part of your hips are tilted forward, anterior, and this is neutral, I want you to tuck it in so you have a slight posterior pelvic tilt. This means the top of your hip is tilted towards the back. What this is going to do is it's going to bring your whole belly off the floor pretty much to allow you to have greater range of motion. The leverage is going to be set up so that you're putting more weight on your pushing muscles, so you're getting the most out of the push movement. It's also going to force you to get rid of any slack that you have in your legs, your glutes, your quads, and your core. So we're keeping everything real rigid, which is going to translate into a more effective push-up. More effective push-ups means more strength, more muscle, and that's what we're doing it for. Tip number 3, one of the reasons why I love push-ups so much and why I prefer it to things like bench pressing is because of the scapular movement. Your shoulder blades are actually moving. So if anybody who's benched before, or I hope you know, when you go to the bench and you lay down, what are you doing? You're locking your shoulder blades back. That's the first thing, right? You're keeping it locked and you're pushing like that with your scapula retracted. While this is effective for bench pressing, powerlifting, it makes it safer on your shoulder so you don't get any shoulder injuries. One of the best benefits of doing push-ups is that the scapula actually moves. So what I want you to do when you're doing these, and it's going to look a little dramatic right here, I want you to actually retract the scapula on the way down and then push all the way through the movement, and then at the top of the push-up movement, you're actually going to push your scapula forward, and you're going to squeeze your chest together at the very top of the movement. This is going to make your push-up so much more effective. It's going to almost feel like you're doing a cable fly. When you do a cable crossovers, it's very similar to that, because you're pushing with the scapula and it's forcing you to squeeze your entire chest together. This is engaging everything. It's going to help you build your chest. It's going to help make your push-up that much better. And it's going to stop you from doing that bouncing around push-up where you're doing half reps and what is that, If you watch my top 3 pull-up tips video, a lot of this is going to sound familiar. You're probably recognizing a theme here, and yes, that's because it applies to both. These principles will carry throughout all the movements that you do in calisthenics. You're going to start to realize that having an engaged core and hip area, along with keeping everything tight in your shoulder girdle, and your scapular movement is going to make every single move you do that much stronger. So there you go. My top push-up tips that I wish I knew earlier. Just saved you at least a couple years. You could thank me later. I hope you liked the video. If you did, go ahead and leave me a like. Don't forget to subscribe, because I'll be doing more videos like this. Be a good friend. Share the video with somebody else that's getting into calisthenics. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the box below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time, this is Richie with Hybrid Athletics, training for life.